Hey, my name's Chelly, and welcome to my very first vlog episode. In these vlogs, I guess I'll be talking about what I'm reading, usually my fantasy or sci-fi reads, sometimes manga. What I'm watching, I watch a lot of Korean dramas, I watch a lot of anime, watch a lot of TV shows, and maybe sometimes life events if it's applicable. So I hope you stick around and enjoy my very first episode. Let's start with what I just finished. I just finished yesterday Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And this is his newest trilogy. I think the last book in the trilogy just came out recently. This is a sci-fi fantasy with fantastical elements, and it's a space opera. And I have read a few of Adrian Tchaikovsky's work, notably Children of Time, which is my favorite book of all, one of my favorite books of all time. And this is very similar, but very different. Adrian Tchaikovsky is like a chameleon. He can write so many different ways. He's very experimental with his writing. This one reminds me of, like, the style is very much similar to Children of Time, but this is more of a self-contained story about I'm Canadian, eh? The story is about a crew on a ship, and they're basically a ship for hire, and our main character, Idris, is actually one of the last surviving Essiels, and Essiels are experimented humans that were given the ability to access subspace. And through this ability, they're able to take ships and go basically through hyperspace and move these ships. And in this world, there is these creatures called the architects, and nobody really knows what they are, but basically they go around and they remodel worlds, and basically they destroy them. And so that's what Earth looks like. You can kind of see right there. So the humans are scattered, they don't have a world anymore, and there's other aliens that are also affected by the architects. So that's where our story is. It is very philosophical. The character work is very in-depth. The world is super strange. So if you haven't read Adrian Tchaikovsky, it's dense. It's a dense read, but it's also not dense. I don't know. How do you explain that? You'd have to read it. If you want to start off, I would definitely suggest Children of Time. Although I didn't like, Children of Time is a trilogy, and although I didn't like the last two books in the trilogy, I consider it a standalone, and it could be read as a standalone. But yes, Children of Time is definitely a good place to start with Adrian Tchaikovsky, or actually even this one too. This one is a good one too. So overall, I gave this 4 stars, and I'm definitely going to continue on with the trilogy when I'm in the mood for a good sci-fi, strange sci-fi. All right, as for what I am currently reading, I am currently listening to The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This is a new release. This is, it's in a post-apocalyptic world, although they don't actually say it, they don't talk about it. But when we're introduced to our main character, Lavera, she is living in the middle of a desert with this tribe of people, and with, like, her family and her tribe of people. And one thing leads to another, and she's uptorn from her family and her like desert society, and brought into, like, proper society. And then somehow, because she is so smart and she's able to do math like crazy, and she picks up on language really well, she gets chosen to become a scholar in the library. And she's basically being trained to memorize all these books so she can reiterate them to other people who either can't read or just can't be bothered to read. So we start off with her, and she's very smart, very wily, a little wild, and she's very delightful. So right now she is in the library, kind of getting her bearings. And then the second perspective is Aver. And Aver, is it Aver? I think it's Aver. Aver is actually stuck in the library, and he's a young I don't want to say boy, although he does read like a boy, but he's supposed to be like around 20. And he's stuck in the library with these other children, young adults he calls his siblings, which are not actually his siblings. They're just siblings because they're all stuck in this library together. And there's just so many weird mysteries that are happening, and they don't know much about the library. So they've been living in this place forever, and they don't know anything about it, and they can't leave it. And there's a lot of mysteries that are unfurling forever. He seems like a very sweet, delightful character as well. So right now we're just getting kind of to know them, and they're kind of getting to know their worlds, and it kind of seems like one of them is in the past and one of them is in the present, or something. There's some sort of, disconnect with their timeline. So it's very interesting. Again, I'm really loving it. I was trying to, so I'm right here, I'm 150 pages in. I was trying to participate in a buddy read, but I'm actually the worst when it comes to participating in buddy reads. I get distracted and then I forget, and then I try the excuses, but I really, really do love this book so far, and I love Mark Lawrence's writing. I'm also in the middle of his Ice trilogy, which is very different, but kind of very similar. I don't know. He has a unique writing style, and I really enjoy it. I'm also going to start the 8th volume of Maison Ikkoku. This is by the mangaka Rimiko Takahashi. Rimiko Takahashi is well known for her previous works like Inuyasha. I think that's probably the most famous right now. Rama Half. She does a lot of like fantasy sci-fi, no, not sci-fi, fantasy horror, like Mermaid Saga, and to name some more. She was really, really popular in the late 80s and the mid 90s. But this is her slice of life series. It's about a rundown boarding house, and they get a new manager, and she's a very young, beautiful woman named Kyoku, but she is a widower. Her husband recently just died, so she decided she needed a change of pace, and she decided to start running her husband's family's boarding house. And the people in this boarding house are just insane. Like, they are crazy people. But she's the one main character. The other main character is Gyoda. And Gyoda is a young dropout. No, he's not a dropout. They call him a Ronin. And Ronins are basically people who have failed their entry test. It doesn't have good luck when it comes to schooling. And this is just their slice of life. Obviously, there's a will there won't be romance between Gyoda and Gyoko, but it's hilarious and heartwarming, and just it's my comfort read. And it actually progresses. Like, the characters start off in their early 20s, and I think by the time this one is, they're in their mid 20s. So they don't just stay the same forever. They continuously grow. Things are happening. Things are shifting. I would say the people that like Spy Family for the fact that it's like the slice of life kind of repetitive jokes may actually enjoy this series, because if you like that repetitive kind of ongoing jokes, the comfort kind of read, then you may like this one. So I love it. Also, this is a really old series. I think it was first published in the early 80s, before I was born. And I watched the anime when I was really, really young. So I am so happy to come back to this world. And yeah, it's my comfort read. It makes me feel happy. Okay, so I guess we'll talk about what I have been watching. I haven't been watching any anime lately. I've kind of taken a break from anime, but I think there's a few I have on my list that I want to start. Are kind of airing now. So I like to kind of wait until they all aired, and then I like to binge watch them because the episodes are pretty short. So there's nothing right now, but right now I am actually watching a really great Korean drama that's on Netflix called Mr. Queen. And this is basically an isekai. And an isekai is basically when somebody from modern time has a life-threatening event that catapults them into the past or into another reality. And they either are reborn, or they are put in somebody else's body. In this case, it is a male chef that has a life-threatening event. Basically, he wakes up and he is in the body of a young queen. and he is navigating this unfamiliar time in an unfamiliar body, and it is hilarious. Like, the actress that plays the queen, I can't remember her name, I'll just put it here, is so good that I actually think that she is a man stuck in a woman's body. She is fantastic. And it is hilarious. There's a lot of food. So if you're a foodie, there's lots of food representation. There's a lot of political intrigue, a lot of scheming and backstabbing. And it's a good time. I'm really enjoying it. So I'm about midway through. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, we are back. And I finished the book that wouldn't burn. We were at my parents' place for the weekend, and I was able to get in some reading time. So I finished this, and I'm so happy that I did. I gave it 5 stars, and it's been a couple days, and now that it's marinated into my brain, I think that I love it even more, because looking back at the beginning, Mark Lawrence really knew where the story, he wanted to take the story, and it was like hinted at since the beginning. So I would love to go back and see all that foreshadowing and the hinting and you know, the hidden details that I missed before. So when the second book comes out, hopefully soon, I'll definitely do a reread of it. And what I liked most about this book was this love story. It is not about a love story, but there is a love story in it, and it drives it, and it's very sweet and very innocent and very first love. And this world is a horrible, depressing world, and there's a lot of bad things happening, but throughout all of this, they've actually managed to find this like little piece of paradise just for the two of them, and it was really adorable. Just that romance. I mean, obviously not the book was adorable, because some pretty bad things happen in it. But I have to say, I was surprised how much this book reminded me of Strange the Dreamer. Maybe it's because it's very like kind of whimsical, strange. You don't know where the plot's going, and the beginning is very different from the ending. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I think, honestly, I recommend this to pretty much any reader, because it's got everything in it. What could go wrong? Also, fangirl moment. I woke up this morning to find that Mark Lawrence liked my review on Goodreads. I'm such a loser, but it made me happy. Regardless, I recommend this book. 5 stars. Great read. I am about this way, about 80% in The Serpent in the Wings of Night. I really don't like titles like this. I really don't. Overall, I think my first impression of this book was Hunger Games meets Twilight, but I was wrong. It is actually Hunger Games meets Underworld, the movie franchise. And I think because of that, I know where this plot is going. I'm enjoying my ride in this. I almost gave up on it 300 pages in. I was getting vampire fatigue and competition fatigue. I've read so many competition books. I've read so many vampire books that I just, I was getting kind of bored of it, but the plot twisted and kind of took off in another direction. So I'm very excited to see where it's going. Again, it's been a really long time since I've read like a fantasy romance like this. I was really into them for a while, and then also I got fatigue from that. And the last few that I've read, I genuinely just hated the main leads. The main character, the female characters especially, they're always kind of the same. I would like to say that Oriana? Anyways, I can't remember. She is a delight. No, she's not a delight. She's a grump. But she is very wounded. She reminds me of a wounded, scared, wild animal. And who is learning to trust other people. And I loved it. And I love the romance between the two characters. I actually genuinely like Rain. Their banter is hilarious. I've actually laughed out loud, and I never laugh. That makes it sound horrible. I have no humor. I don't usually laugh when it comes to like reading books, like TV shows, yes, of course. But books, I don't usually laugh. And I chuckled a couple times during their conversations. So overall, I like it. I aim to finish this by the end of today or tomorrow. I am also listening to The Shadow of What We Lost by James Islington. On audiobook, and I'm about 10 chapters in, and I am liking it so far. I'm just getting my feet wet, so I don't really know what's happening yet, basically. We're just meeting our characters, we're just finding out about the world. They're getting thrown into situations like all of these types of books. A lot of people compare this, it even says, if you love Wheel of Time, you'll love this. But I disagree. I do not like Wheel of Time, and I like this book. I think the only reason people really compare it is because it's a coming of age story, and also like I think there's a bit of a chosen one trope in it. So far, I mean, I don't know, I'm only like 100 pages in. Once I finish The Serpent and the Wings of Night, this will be a priority read. For manga, I'm about 50% in of this one, and I read these slowly because I like to sprinkle them in because honestly, once it's done, right? But I've slowed down because Rumiko Takahashi, she is known for her long series. Like she's done Inuyasha, Ranma Half, and they all spanned like over 20 volumes, I think. And she does this thing where she'll introduce a new character towards the end of the series, just to spice things up. And she introduced a new character here. And it's a teenage girl. And I hate it. I hate her. She's just so annoying. Oh. And then there's another trope that there's very common in manga where the teenage girl is chasing after her high school teacher, which to me is gross. Like, that's just gross. But then again, this book was made in the 80s. So I'm happy to say that the character that I hate actually twisted her perspective and now is focusing her attention on Kyoko and kind of forcing Kyoko to admit her feelings for Gyota. And I like that shift so much better. And I'm really, really, really hoping that she has this part and then she goes away and never comes back, because honestly, I'm so done with this character. So overall, I'm enjoying it. I will probably continue reading it for the rest of the month, just slow and steady. For what I'm watching, I actually just finished Mr. Queen a couple days ago, and although I did enjoy the ending, I kind of wished it ended a little bit different. I kind of got bored towards the last part because Korean dramas, they have this thing where it's quite common for it to kind of go through a slog before the great reveal ending, and it's for various reasons. Usually it's because they try to pump out too many dramas and the writers don't have enough time to properly think about the plot, so they just throw in whatever. Or sometimes they're stretching a plot through 20 episodes when really it should have been like a 16 episode series. And I found that was maybe the problem for Mr. Queen. Again, a lot of people may disagree because Mr. Queen is highly political, and I'm not a political person, so maybe I was just bored. But again, I recommend the series. I thought it was overall really good. Not my favorite, but I find the female actress, she plays a male perfectly, and she's so good. I love her. All right, I'm back, and I finished The Serpent and the Wings of Night last night. Overall, it was a pretty good read. I think I'm going to give it about 3.5 stars on Goodreads. And overall, yeah, it was a good book, but nothing new. If you want candy, like this is a candy book. Like you want to have dessert after your dinner and just sit down and indulge yourself in something sweet and fun and entertaining, this is definitely a book worth checking out. If you're going into like something for in-depth and fantastic world building and awesome character work, no, this is not it. This is pure fun, fantasy fun. The smut was pretty good. I'll have to say the smut was pretty good. I generally don't like smutty books, but this one, it was tolerable for me. And I actually liked the two main characters, which honestly, most of these books, I either hate one or the other. So I enjoyed both of the characters. The ending was not shocking to me, mainly because I have read so many of these books. And I'm quite familiar with the genre. So the ending was not as shocking as it might be to some people, but overall I enjoyed it. I don't know if I will continue on with the series. If I do, I'll probably read it on like ebook and not bother with the physical book. Just because I have so many other books that I want to read right now, and it doesn't really take priority. But this is a fun time, so I'm glad I read it. And yeah, I guess it was what I needed at the time. So that's it. That's this week's wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back for next week's vlog. See you then. Bye.